but we also went through this process. We took an Enneagram study, if you ever heard of the
Hmm.
Enneagram, but kind of assigns numbers to your personality. But what we liked about it is it highlights what you're bad at. And a lot of skills and assessments, people are left with all the positives. Oh, I'm really great at this, that, and the other. But what we needed to know, because you kind of know what everybody's good at anyway,
Yeah,
we needed to really understand what Peyton was really terrible at. So we didn't
a
give
lot.
a lot of expectations.
Going back to the Moneyball innovation side of it, you laid out that all of the family members have their own unique skills as well. So, did
Mhm.
the analytical approach, kind of that foundation to the Moneyball side, was that a natural fit, or did you kind of have to start to shift people's mindsets to get them to play the role needed in order to get the analytics kind of flowing?
Yeah, great question. For us, you could say we got lucky or we were just blessed, but it happened naturally because of the people involved. So my two brother-in-laws, Jay and Adam, they're very much the kind of cold calculating type at times. I don't mean cold in like a bad way, but they always look at the numbers first. I'm very emotionally driven, so if I think it's a great idea, I'm going to do it. And
Same.
then I just start sprinting towards that goal, and they tell me, "Hey, you're going the wrong direction." Oh, shoot! So they're good. We needed them, and we got lucky to have them early on, or we probably would have spun the wheels of our bus in the wrong direction at my guidance, at my lead, many, many times. So we just kind of lucked into it. I teach this methodology now, and so I tell people like, if you don't have that mix, you need to go out and find it. And the first place to look is internal. So try and look at your current employee base. Look at folks who've got a lot of experience, know your company and your marketplace really well, and give them a personality test. And if you haven't done that for all your key management, you probably should anyway. It's a great assessment. And what we're going to do with the personality tests, and my actually, we got blessed and lucky to have the right mix, but we also went through this process. We took an Enneagram study, if you ever heard of the
Hmm.
Enneagram, but kind of assigns numbers to your personality. But what we liked about it is it highlights what you're bad at. And a lot of skills and assessments, people are left with all the positives. Oh, I'm really great at this, that, and the other. But what we needed to know, because you kind of know what everybody's good at anyway,
Yeah,
we needed to really understand what Peyton was really terrible at. So we didn't
a
give
lot.
a lot of expectations, to like certain areas that you weren't gonna either enjoy, you're not passionate about it, you're naturally a bad fit at it. So we took the Enneagram, and then we actually read each other's results over lunch to one another. So I'd pick up the test results and say, look, okay, here we go. I'm going to read Adam's, and so I would read about Adam, and we'd all laugh and chuckle and say, yeah, that's pretty spot on. He's terrible at that, but yeah, he's really good at that. Once we understood what everybody's bad at, we could better stay in our lanes and approach things more analytically. And that was a necessary beginning, was first analyzing our personalities and analyzing who we were. And then we constructed a series of analytics, really just pulling from our own company internal data through Microsoft SQL, made some reporting tools that were automated. So they were trigger and alert driven reports. And then we would sometimes make some custom analytical tools just to look at one aspect of something we rolled out in shipping, or an aspect of something we rolled out in the kit room, or new piece of software. So that was our approach. I would say, again, there was never any like aha moment for us. We didn't really, until looking back, realize, wow, hey, we took a great approach. But it was honestly because we were blessed with a good mix of personalities that took the right approach.
Yeah. And with industrial manufacturing, there are a lot of numbers in play, and we talked before we started recording about you guys launching a new ERP system that probably gave you some really good insight and some data. What if you are working for a company, or own a company that maybe doesn't have as clear cut inventory analytics changing? How can you kind of use the Moneyball approach to more like more philosophical based company? I don't necessarily know if that's the right word, but you're not seeing
Digital company.
yeah, like a digital company. Exactly. So how can
Yeah.
you kind of implement the Moneyball approach to something like that?
All right. So first, you get your core team of innovators. If it's not family ownership, then it's an owner finding a key group of managers with a unique skill set. Very
Yep.
different people. So you need your analytical guy. You need your dreamer, like me, guy that's full of shit. I play an important part in this process. You put together your team and you give them a big budget, not of money, but a big budget of time. That's probably what takes the most, is tons of
Yeah.
time to do this approach. So these folks are going to have to like lock themselves in a room, get to know one another, get to know their own skill sets, what they're really all bad at, and then they're going to have to look at the company in an honest light and say, what's the company really terrible at? I think too often people swing for the fences. The Moneyball approach is not about home runs; it's about base hits.
Yep.
So that small team then is going to line out their first couple base hits. Those base hits are going to be something pretty rudimentary. Maybe it's a paperless system in the front office. Okay, hey, we can't be pushing all this paper around; it's inefficient, and we can't pull anything from it. So we need to come up with maybe a document server, a digital document server that has searchable PDFs. Maybe another one is just creating some process automation around some of their bottlenecks in the warehouse or in their front office, or between two different departments. Like in our world, we have the warehouse and the front office. They always have to go back and forth with information. So perhaps we create some automated processes there. They set up their first couple innovation base hits, and they try and execute them as fast as they can, and then measure the results. They're going to have a couple winners and a couple losers, or maybe they're all winners. That's great. And then they just move on with some more base hits that slowly move them around, the bases using the baseball analogy. So they've made it to first base. Now they're going to go to second base and third base. Many of their early innovations are probably going to be creating some of those analytical tools. And I think even if you have an archaic ERP system, that's fine. You can tap into that ERP system's database in the back end and just run your own analytics, mirror a server, use Microsoft SQL, Visual Basics, some really easy Java code, and you can create your own reporting tools. The home run that people swing and miss at a lot is just trying to buy that fancy ERP, MRP that's going to solve all their problems and then hire an outside firm to implement it. That's like the number one mistake I think I've watched all of my friends in the industry make, and I'm out, screaming, don't do that. Number one, the generic, giant, fancy, shiny ERP isn't going to solve all your problems. It's also wildly expensive, and they're generic, so they're not going to necessarily be a perfect fit for all the nuances in your company. You're better off buying the cheapest ERP system you can that uses something fairly open source on the back end, like Microsoft SQL, that you can manipulate on your own. And then you get the basic foundational ERP, and then through the Moneyball approach, you can start bolting on your own little specialized tools that make that ERP much more efficient and augment it and complement it. That's the better approach. But it takes hard work to do that, to make that approach. It takes time.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't want to get their hands dirty and don't want to take the time. They just think the easy buttons, just cut a check for, $500,000 and hope it works.
Yeah. No, well, from my experience working at Oracle, I was specifically more on the enterprise level, so big companies, 2 billion plus. But a lot of those companies actually kind of took more of the internal homegrown approach, where they created these extremely complex spreadsheets. Specifically, I worked with configure price quote software, CPQ, but they would create these really intricate spreadsheets that would work really well for them. And actually, we had trouble working with them because their setup was so specific to their niche, and we were trying to apply this. Now, obviously, this software was highly configurable and you could do a lot of stuff with it, but at the end of the day, sometimes we weren't matches for those companies